The Skincare Through the Ages series is sponsored by Neutrogena. To learn more about the products mentioned in the episodes, please visit the link in the description.
Hello, and welcome to the Science of Skin podcast. My name is Ted Lain. I am a board-certified dermatologist in Austin, Texas, and I have with me my co-host, Dr. Patti Farris. How are you, Patti?
Hey, good, Ted. How are you?
I almost called you Dr. Farris. That would have been weird.
That would be weird.
Yeah. We are going to chat about our Skincare Through the Ages Neutrogena series, where we kind of went through, all the ages through menopause, and we're just going to kind of summarize and chat about what we learned and some real highlights from all these 5 episodes that were published recently. I just thought they were great, Patti.
I did too. I have to admit, I binged them today because, you can't remember what you said 5 or 6 weeks ago or what somebody else said. And then also I hadn't heard some of the ones that you had recorded. And they were really great. So I really enjoyed it. I binged the whole thing today and I love it. And we probably should say that at our meeting this year, we had a Skincare Through the Ages session, which was really good and very well received. And I think this is a great complement to that educational activity because it really brings it to life, I think, with the studies and all the great work that Neutrogena has done. And we'll talk about some of that, of course, in this episode.
Yeah, the Science of Skin Summit took place in September of 2025, and we've got it scheduled for September 18th through the 20th, 2026. And of course, this podcast really was an offshoot from the summit because we wanted to make sure we were providing education throughout the year, not just at the summit. For those few days. And really it's just been so wonderful. And now we've got great companies like Neutrogena sponsoring episodes and allowing us to interview some incredible dermatologists. And we really had the who's who in terms of our guests for this series.
We did. We absolutely did.
Well, let's get started. So the first episode that we did was really the foundations of a good skincare regimen. And we had Dr. Peter Leo involved with that one, as well as Heather Willery Lloyd from Miami. And we just went through, I guess we went through CMP, cleanse, moisturize, and protect. And that's the basic for any regimen. Let's just be honest, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's the 3 pillars, as we like to call them. I love that episode. First of all, they were such great savants. They're both super smart, but it was very practical. There was a lot of practical advice. I particularly like Peter Leo. He talks a lot about moisturization, takes care of a lot of kids with really bad eczema. And I think he has a unique perspective on it. And one of the things he says that I love is that, there are a lot of good moisturizers. You really got to find the one that fits the patient. And I don't know if you remember this, Ted, but we were all on podium. I think you were on podium with us at this time couple of years ago at a meeting, and somebody said to Peter, it was a gentleman dermatologist, asked him and said, Peter, I don't know that much about different products. Like, how do I pick one for a patient? He said, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And he said, find a company that you like, that makes good products, a great consumer company that has great ingredients, whether it's glycerin or hyaluronic acid or niacinamide, all those things we know, and just recommend 1 or 2 to the patient and let the patient really self-select. And he talked similar to that talking point when you were speaking to him. It's kind of like we say, the best sunscreen is the one the patient will use. The best moisturizer for a patient with barrier repair problems is the moisturizer that doesn't sting them, doesn't burn them, doesn't have fragrance, doesn't, irritate them. So there's really a lot of good options. And I don't know, I just thought that was such practical advice that he gave.
We talked a lot about the Neutrogena gel cleanser, which has that amazing polymeric technology based on potato starch, where you can think of a polymer that kind of lassos the different surfactants and keeps them all in check so they can't sneak off and do nefarious things like impair the barrier.
Exactly.
So we love that gel cleanser because it's foaming, which meets patients' needs and desires, but it also helps to make sure that we clean the skin but not impair the barrier, as I said. And then we've got the Neutrogena Hydro Boost moisturizers, right? We've got the water cream and the gel cream. The difference being the water cream's a little bit thicker. It's got the natural moisturizing factor ingredients as well as lipids that help to replace that which is lost in an impaired barrier.
Yes.
And the gel cream being a little bit lighter. And those two, along with and you mentioned this in one of your episodes, Patti, just the incredible selection of Neutrogena sunscreens. I mean, if you
Unbelievable.
if you can't find something that you like in that selection, I'm not sure you're ever going to find a
You're in
sunscreen you like.
trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. No, you're right. And we did talk about that, especially in the teen episode. And, we talked also about the preteens, and getting kids to use sunscreen is hard. And they've just got about every formulation possible, sticks and sprays, and lots of really great creamy formulations, daily use sunscreens, beach sunscreens. They're just in every part of that particular category of skincare products. And as I mentioned in one of the episodes, there's a lot of companies, especially the smaller ones, that really don't play in the sunscreen arena because it's not an easy one to be in. You got to be in it to win it with sunscreens. You got to really have somebody
Yeah.
who's a great formulator who really understands the nuances of that. And I mentioned Joshua Williams, who I had interviewed, who works with the Neutrogena team and does a lot of the formulation. He was just a wealth of information. So you can see how they get the breadth of products that they have to offer consumers. It's really impressive.
I liked what Dr. Benjamin said, and it was something that I'm going to take back into my practice, which is, the mom can control the sunscreen on the body, but the kid really should control the sunscreen on the face. And she liked the sprays for the body because they were quick, easy, and you can rub them in. But let the kid have the stick and apply the stick, him or herself, and have ownership and autonomy on that. And I really like that idea. I've never thought of it that way, but that's going to change how I practice. So I appreciated that, Pearl.
I liked it too. I thought she had a lot of great practical advice as well. We talked a
Well,
lot about acne in that series as well. And
mhm,
I think there was some really good tips about that. We talked about using acne patches and how great they are because they stop kids from picking. So
mhm.
you don't get that acne excoriae and you don't have all the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation and the prolonged healing. So they're not just cool, which they're now cool, and I love that, but they also did some nice studies and talked to kids who were using them, and they said they were picking their face less and their lesions seemed to go away quicker. So, that's a really nice addition for this particular age group.
Yeah, I think that dermatologists probably don't pay enough attention to patches, quite frankly, because we kind of poo-poo them. Most of them are just hydrocolloid
They
and
are
maybe not do a lot besides provide a barrier and help protect the skin barrier as well. But we have to meet the patients where they are, right? We have to educate them
100%.
and allow them to
100%.
use what they want to use for them to feel ownership over their own skincare routine. And I think that the patches really allow our patients to do that. And thank goodness we have so many different options, some medicated, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the other ones that are not medicated and really just a hydrocolloid are fine.
Yeah.
And people love to use those.
Yeah,
So
they do.
let
And I
them use
think
them.
I think we're getting greater acceptance with the consumers for them. And I think the dermatologists are now starting to rally behind them as well. And then we talked a little bit about Neutrogena oil-free acne wash because that's such a
Mhm.
like a gold standard in dermatology. It's such a nice, non-irritating product. And they did a nice little study where they looked at patients with acne who used nothing but that product, didn't have any other topicals, and their acne did get better over the time course of the study. So just using a good cleanser that doesn't irritate, doesn't disrupt the barrier. And they had done some preclinical work as well, but just it's a nice product to remember.
The Skincare Through the Ages series is sponsored by Neutrogena. For over 90 years, Neutrogena has advanced skin health for all skin types. With formulation expertise that combines scientifically proven ingredients and innovative technologies to deliver maximum efficacy and an unparalleled aesthetics experience. That's beauty to a science. To learn more about the products mentioned in the episodes, please visit the link in the description.
It's so funny. We keep talking about these studies, right, that have been published. And that's why we
Yep.
started the meeting, right? The meeting was initially called the Science of Skin Care Summit because we knew about all these studies and no one else really was paying much attention to them amongst our peer group. And we wanted to highlight those.
Yeah.
And we just had our meeting, and a very prominent dermatologist in the medical space came up to me because we have a strong medical track now at the meeting. And he said, I just didn't realize how much data there was behind skincare. And I really want to get involved more. And how do I get involved and use my lab? And
Love
so
it. Love that.
kudos to companies like Neutrogena for
Yeah.
continuing to invest and producing great ex vivo, in vivo, in vitro data to show and developing like the diacetyl peptide, these
Oh, I know.
short little peptides that do amazing things. And they showed us exactly how it works in the skin.
I sure did.
So I mean, if anything, I'm hoping that skincare through the ages not only gives tips and tricks and pearls and education, but also highlights how much investment goes into these very inexpensive products that are available. And you used the term in your menopause episode, Patti, about democratization. And
Yes.
that's exactly what we're seeing with Neutrogena. They're allowing us to democratize beauty and wellness for the skin at incredibly low price points.
Yeah, I love it. Making it available to everybody. The other thing they're doing, which is, I think, a huge focus, is testing on all skin types, all Fitzpatrick skin types. That whole pre-aging study that they did, looking at aging turning points in various Fitzpatrick skin types. Obviously knowing that darker skin type ages somewhat later than really light skin, but basically the things you saw were the same. Over time, all the same things occurred: dark circles, fine lines and wrinkles, uneven skin tone. All these things happen to everybody, just at different time points. And then they test the product on every single Fitzpatrick skin type. And that's so important. And that's a big part of democratization as well. All Fitzpatrick skin types, making sure that products work for everybody. That's a huge, I think, push from this particular company. I give Neutrogena a lot of credit. I thought they did a lot of really good work on that pre-aging group
It's
of
true.
products.
And they won't let a clinical trial be performed unless there is diversity. And I know this
Right.
because I just ran one for them.
I know you did.
And sometimes it's difficult to really get that diversity
Yeah,
to recruit the patients needed to ensure diversity. It's so much easier to recruit homogeneous population of patients
absolutely.
but it's not the right thing to do. And Neutrogena really pushes their investigators to do the right thing. And kudos to them because we need to. And thankfully, it's not just Neutrogena. There's lots of
No, lots of
companies
them
and
working that.
pharma and
Yeah.
skincare doing the same thing.
Yeah, almost
Which
everybody's
is
doing it now, but if you think about a decade ago, Ted, nobody was
no,
doing it.
no, not at
And
all.
and I do give a lot of our colleagues credits for raising the flag on that. I give them credit because they really turned the lights on, I think, for a lot of the cosmetic companies. But Neutrogena has done a great job, and they did that as well with many of the products that we talked about. They tested them in all skin types, so it's great.
You mentioned the aging changes that occur and how it's more of not really a gradual approach, but it's more of a stepwise approach to
Yep,
aging. And that's
yep.
based on Neutrogena data as well.
Hmm.
Which I don't know that we talked about in this series, but Neutrogena looked at over 180 patients, I believe. Patti, you know this better than I
Yes, we
do. And
did. We did talk about it.
oh,
You
you did.
remember we
Okay.
read the paper basically.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And that's the next episode that we're
That's the
about to
next
talk about,
episode.
actually.
Yeah. That was a great study they did where they really identified those aging turning points. And as you
Yes.
say, it's kind of like a stair step. If you look at the really light skin types 1 and 2, and then the 2s and 3s and the 3s and 4s, you get those turning points either in the mid 20s and around 30 or about 35. So it was really good work. And that was a big study that they conducted.
I love that work because it echoed what I noticed in practice after about my first 5 years was people were coming in wanting anti-aging regimen or something
Hmm.
to rejuvenate the skin. And you just realized, and I'm sure lots of the dermatologists listening to us realize this as well, that aging is not gradual. There are absolutely points in life where aging occurs very quickly. And this study just reinforced what we had been noticing in our offices for decades.
Yeah. And I think we
So
dismiss a lot of these patients because you
mhm,
look at them and you're like, you're 27 years old. And,
yeah.
but they're starting to see those early changes. And I think it really positioned or it gave us a real backing to do early prevention and early treatment. And this is where acetaldipeptide came in. That nice little multifunctional anti-aging molecule that started out being looked at as an anti-inflammatory molecule. And then ultimately AP1 was looked at for anti-aging and had, very diverse anti-aging activity. So you've got an anti-inflammatory to address that inflammaging pathway, and
Mhm.
then also upregulating collagen, elastin, hyaluronic acid, decorin, and fibronectin. So it's a very cool ingredient.
I mean, I think we're kind of circling around it, but what we were really talking about is their collagen bank
Collagen
line of
bank.
products. And that was in our third episode, Understanding Pre-Aging and the Gen Z Patient,
Hmm.
with Dr. Cherie Fry.
Yes,
And you were the guest as well. I was able to interview you and Cherie,
that was
and it
fun.
was so fun. I really enjoyed that episode, and I learned a ton from you guys. We essentially went through the paper that you authored, as you mentioned, and because it's such an important paper, it's honestly it's a seminal paper for anybody to read and to understand what's going on in that age group and the science behind the collagen bank products is just incredible.
Yeah, they did a lot of work, good preclinical work, and then even clinical studies looking at the finished products alone and as a regimen. And if you remember when they used the regimen, the AM, which has the sunscreen in it and the AP31, and then the evening product, which has AP31 and bakuchiol, if you use them together, you got better results than using either one of them alone. So it really is a system. And, it, again, always doing really good clinical work across a diverse population of patients.
It's almost like a JID article, a Journal of Investigative Dermatology article, honestly, because it takes you through, as you mentioned, preclinical in vitro work to kind of provide the foundation of why they use the ingredient and the ingredients and formulations they did in humans. And so I think any company out there who is thinking about publishing on their new product, some kind of new ingredient, I would really recommend you look at that as a framework for publishing something that would support the use of a brand new ingredient. But the work that was done was just perfect.
Yeah, the in vitro work was really interesting too. Remember, they cultured human fibroblasts and they looked at them after UVA radiation and found those younger fibroblasts had more oxidative stress, upregulated ROS more. They were so much more reactive than older fibroblasts. So all that damage these kids are doing, I know. It's totally, but it's so interesting. And then they put retinol on the same two groups of fibroblasts and found that the younger fibroblasts were more responsive to retinol. So they're damaged, you get more damage, but you also get the upside, which is that you're more responsive. So don't lay in the sun if you're a Gen Z, please.
I get the better response to retinol.
Me
like
too.
That makes sense, but the greater damage, there must be a reason for it that I'm just not aware of. But it was surprising to me.
It's a really interesting finding, and I don't think anybody else has ever really looked at it. But maybe the fibroblasts are just more capable of generating ROS. I mean, maybe it's just that simple. They're just more
sending
capable.
out the alarm.
Yeah. They just have a heightened awareness. It's super interesting stuff. But yeah, they did a great job on that. And the paper was, I hope everybody has a chance to peek at it because it is interesting data.
And then we moved into skincare for men, and I was able to interview two luminaries in that. So Dr. Terrence Keeney and Corey Hartman in Alabama. And we just had a good time talking about how it's hard to get men to use
to do anything.
Yeah.
It was the bro episode.
It was the bro.
You guys did a great job, though. And I love the fact that Terrence went through all the differences between female and male skin, like more collagen in the male skin and more reactive oxygen species in the male skin and more sebum, which makes sense because there's testosterone, and just all these differences that you have to take into account when you give a guy a skincare regimen. And then also the exogenous testosterone, which a lot of men, especially in their middle age, start taking. And so there's just so many variables that you have to, a lot of factors, I guess, to juggle. I thought it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it.
I really appreciated Dr. Hartman's psychology background
Yes.
and kind of bringing that out for us to use. And again, practical tips. I learned something in that episode about how to talk to guys about skincare and again, meeting them where they are and starting easy and slow and working our way, developing a trusting relationship and working our way into something like a regimen that could really holistically help them.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that because I think when we speak to a lot of our female patients, it's like, I want everything all at once, just give it to me.
But not the guys.
Yeah.
A little bit goes a long way. Yeah. And I thought that you're right. His background there was really helpful. It was so interesting.
Well, we went from men to menopause with Dr. Mona Gahara and Kavita Mariwala, who are like two besties from Yale.
I
They kept
learned a
talking.
lot about
Yeah,
those two.
that
They have
was
5
fun.
boys between them. 5
Oh my
boys.
gosh.
You got to be
Yeah.
kidding me. And then I mean, Kavita is on the phone, which she's got a kid doing an interview at school. She's on her phone doing the podcast in her car. It's like,
Typical.
I know, it's so typical. I loved it though. And it was great. I mean, Kavita said she went through menopause very quickly because she had a bout with cancer, and that was what tripped her very quickly into menopause. But everybody is talking about it now and wanting to know what products are really the most beneficial. And it was sort of interesting because we touched on the hot topic of topical estrogen. And I think both of them sort of felt like has a place probably, but we don't maybe know enough right now, and we don't probably have the right forms, and we don't know about systemic absorption. And they were still very high on their retinol.
Mm-hmm.
And they they talked all about retinols and how easy they are to use and how important they are and how they affect all the layers of the skin. You get epidermal effects and dermal effects, and of course obviously it's what's in the dermis that really makes the wrinkles and the things that we hate go away. But it's important to lighten hyperpigmentation and things like that. A lot of patients on HRT get melasma.
Mm-hmm.
So just how, and also they both talked about skin of color patients. And they said they feel very comfortable using the Neutrogena rapid wrinkle repair products in patients with darker skin types. I'll never forget. You never forget the things that go bad in your practice. And I remember I treated a girl with skin type 5 with a prescription retinoid once. And when she came back irritated with PIH, she was mad at me, mad as a hornet. And I
Mm-hmm.
really did not prepare her properly for how to start it. And, I probably just gave her the prescription and off she went. But they said they feel very comfortable with these stabilized, slow delivery, bioavailable, low concentration retinols, which is basically what you get with that rapid wrinkle repair product.
I was so happy you guys mentioned rapid wrinkle repair and went through that, because that's one of my fave
Me too.
retinoids,
Me too.
OTC.
I use it. That's what I use.
Yeah, it's great. And it
It's
can be,
easy to
for
get.
me, and you can use it underneath your eyes as well. I found it super tolerable for all areas of the face.
Yep.
And again, super accessible also. I thought you guys got into sunscreen use as well. And Mona
Yeah.
said, you need to have the anti-Tinder relationship with your sunscreen.
They were hilarious.
Yeah.
I was laughing the whole time. The anti-Tinder.
Yeah.
You got to love it. I also loved, we talked about aging turning points, and I would have loved that study to go a little longer, like if I had my wish list, because there is something that happens in this perimenopause, which is actually right after the 35-year-old group. You start getting in the mid 40s, and that's when you start really going through perimenopause. And there is some incredible aging that occurs at that time. We know collagen you start losing collagen precipitously in that time frame, and especially postmenopausal. And that's when women really come in and they're like, oh, wow, something is really happening now. And that's when the intervention, you hope that you were collagen banking in your 30s so that you're not trying to play catch up, which is, I think, exactly what one of them said, when you're in your 50s. So that's also another great reason to be using good products when you're young.
I just appreciated the fact that you had two brilliant dermatologists, both trained at Yale, like absolutely brilliant people who are both going through, or
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, Kavita went through menopause
Yeah.
quickly, but going through the process and are able to kind of experience and commiserate with their patients and talk about their experience and how it's changed their skin and their bodies and their minds. And yet they still focus on the retinol. I mean, this is an age where we are, approached every day with a new regenerative product, a new type of
For
exosome,
sure.
and a new, brand new peptide, new growth factor. I mean, literally on the daily, Patti and I are approached by a skincare company with something brand new, and some of them are going to work out great, some of them are not. But the fact that they still rely as a foundational backbone to a rejuvenating regimen as to retinol just goes to show sometimes these foundational ingredients are not going to go away despite all these new things that are coming. And I think we can just hang our hat on all the data behind retinol and tretinoin
For
and its
sure.
derivatives.
And I asked them that question, why do you think it's still the gold standard? And it really is the science. And it was also part of what Corey Hartman described as his holy trinity.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about his three things that he likes to use in men, and
Mm-hmm.
retinoids at night was his go-to.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you guys talked about moisturization and sunscreen. And I actually thought you guys were going to spend a lot of time on dry skin and moisturizing, but they wanted to talk about, no, I was surprised because they really wanted to talk about reversing the issues that had happened over the previous 50 years in their lives versus kind of focusing on the dry skin of menopause. So yet again, I was surprised. Whenever I listen to anything about menopause, I'm always surprised. I think I know something and I really don't.
Dry skin is a huge issue, especially really postmenopausally. And
Mhm.
as you get, through the transition and like get into your late 50s and early 60s, that's when the dry skin, I think, really starts to come on. And it's sort of a challenge, honestly, because patients will come in and they're using heavy moisturizers because they need them. But you also don't have that rapid epidermal turnover that you used to have. So
Yeah.
this is when you start seeing this milia phenomenon, which is the plague of women in their 60s and even into the 70s. And I can't, so much time is spent taking milia out of people
Sure.
because it's a problem. You got to balance the moisturization with the fact that you don't have as good an epidermal turnover. You've got to either use a little exfoliation, use something with a hydroxy acid in it, or you have to do a little bit of exfoliating from time to time. That's where some of the nice in-office procedures that aren't super aggressive, I think, come into play, like microdermabrasion and hydrofacials and things like that.
Mhm.
But it is hard. It's hard to balance the moisturization.
Yeah, I've never really thought of it that way with the slower epidermal
Oh
turnover
yeah,
and
it's
the
real.
dryness. Yeah,
It's
it's
real.
absolutely it makes sense physiologically for sure. But yeah, we struggle with the dry skin and the need to exfoliate, and our patients' desire to exfoliate. And
They do.
how exfoliation can increase the cell turnover as well over time. So it's a balancing act. But I also think, Patty, that's where the gel cream and the water cream can come into play.
For sure. For
Depending
sure.
on how much moisturization they want. I mean, they're not occlusive. They both, I love the gel cream in the summer here in Austin because it's
Hmm.
so lightweight. The water cream for my Accutane patients are in the
Yeah.
wintertime.
I think for the postmenopausal patient, the water cream is a winner, total
There you go.
winner. And they both said that they used it in their patients. And we talked about your study with procedures. So
Mhm.
that was a great, again, I think something interesting for a consumer company to look at their product and see how tolerable it is within office procedures. That was a nice little study. That
And Kavita was talking about how she used it post IPL, but
right,
photofacial
right,
for a month.
photofacial.
She made sure her patients were using it for a month, and she absolutely believed that it was enhancing the
Yeah.
efficacy of that treatment, that procedure.
I
So
thought
I
that
just
was
think,
interesting too. Very
yeah,
interesting.
anecdotal evidence as well as kind of more clinical trial evidence. All of it's pointing to the same thing, which is this is a great peri-procedural integrated skincare product,
Hmm.
and it ain't expensive.
No, I know. All the companies, as you and I know, they're all into this post procedure space, especially the companies that make products for doctors because we need them. But it's nice to be able to say, hey, there's been a study done. This is an inexpensive product and get it over the counter. It's not going to give you trouble. And you looked at patients who had non-ablative laser, if I'm not mistaken, and
We
microdermabrasion.
Yeah, we used the Fraxel laser. We used the microdermabrasion, microneedling and chemical peel.
Microneedling, yeah,
Those are the three cohorts of patients, and it wasn't a huge study, 10 patients per
right.
cohort, but essentially it showed that patients were real happy. They thought that it worked really well for them. They tolerated it very well. We showed that with reduction in erythema.
Hmm.
Pretty much post procedure, we reduced erythema really quickly with the use of the water cream.
I love that.
And then the burning and the stinging reduced 24 hours later. So we showed that at the very least, if you wanted to make sure you had data to support the use of these products with these different procedures, you had it because of the study. And then I think you could get your own anecdotal experience after that to show the efficacy, as long, assuming that you
Yeah.
can compare it to something else that you've done for the patient.
Yeah. And I think it's nice because a lot of times we recommend so many occlusive things. And this is that was such a nice light regimen that you recommended. And I think it's probably way more cosmetically elegant and acceptable. I mean, putting Vaseline or Aquaphor on your face after a procedure is not the most pleasant.
Right. So, well, I think we've pretty much summed everything up here, Patti, and
so.
kind of highlighted our favorites from there.
Absolutely.
And what we learned from it. I just want to thank, of course, Neutrogena so much for sponsoring Skincare Through the Ages. We had so much fun recording those episodes.
We did. It was great.
And we got to interview our buddies and some real incredible people who are at the very forefront of skincare and the skincare science, as well as rejuvenation and medical science overall, and dermatology. Many of these folks. So, thank you to our guests, surgeons.
Yeah, lots.
Yep. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to Neutrogena, and we hope you've enjoyed this series of Skincare Through the Ages. My name is Dr. Ted Lain. I'm a board-certified dermatologist in Austin, along with my co-host, Dr. Patti Farris in New Orleans. This is Science of Skin podcast, formerly known as Skincare Confidential. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star rating. That really helps us. And subscribe. And of course, the best advertising we can get is word of mouth. So please tell your peers about it as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
The Skincare Through the Ages series is sponsored by Neutrogena. For over 90 years, Neutrogena has advanced skin health for all skin types. With formulation expertise that combines scientifically proven ingredients and innovative technologies to deliver maximum efficacy and an unparalleled aesthetics experience. That's beauty to a science. To learn more about the products mentioned in the episodes, please visit the link in the description.